Yeah, you ready?
I'm pretty ready. I feel ready.
You feel ready. That's the important feel. It's not I think I'm ready. It's I feel ready.
So I got this feeling we're gonna jump into this, and I'm gonna feel ready, and then I'm gonna fuck it all up.
Welcome everyone. I'm the Rixer, and I'm here with one tabloid.
Yo, what's up?
And we're actually doing a podcast here for you guys today. We're hopefully gonna make more episodes coming soon eventually.
Definitely gonna be making more episodes.
Yeah,
I was so stoked on this idea. We've spent like the last like day and a half on it, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a very spontaneous idea, but it's something we both like kind of wanted to do for a while. So if you don't know who we are, well, basically, it's more or less, we don't want to label it as like a speedrun podcast, but we are going to be talking about speedrunning for the most part in this first episode because
it's what we both do. Literally.
Yeah, it's what we both do, and it's like it's one of those things that if you limit it to speedrunning in general, just like that, you're gonna run out of things to talk about by like episode 4 and things like that. It doesn't. I mean, there are quite a few things to talk about, but you'll eventually run out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we didn't even want this to be just about speedrunning because we want to talk about like a load of stuff. We have like so many things that we kind of want to talk about over the course of like a few episodes that it's not just speedrunning. We've got like plenty of other topics. I'm not going to spoil them. I want that to be like for a later date.
Just wanted it to be surprised. Yeah.
So we settled on the Tab and Ricky podcast as the official Tab and Ricky podcast is the official name for the official podcast.
Names are hard, man. If you're trying to create something, it's so hard.
We were cracking this out, and we sat here and we were talking to each other about all this stuff, and we were like, okay, we got the background sorted, we got all this stuff that we've got on the video sorted. It took like maybe 10-15 minutes every time we made a decision. This name, we were trying to think of a good name for like how long? It must have been like 2 hours.
Yeah,
we just couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, it must have been hours. And it's funny. It's funny because like this name kind of came from just me wanting to do like a template layout. So I just put in like the Tab and Rick.
Yeah, literally. We wanted to see how it would look on the thing. We were like, that looks good. And then after a certain point, we were like, you know what? We just keep it as that. It looks good. It looks good.
Except I wanted Ricky because Rick is kind of like a sharp edge.
It was Tab and Rick before, yeah. And we were originally going to make it something about Ratchet as well, but
yeah, we scratched that too.
We scratched that. I feel like we didn't want to make it like. I mean, obviously we're both Ratchet and Clank speedrunners at the moment, and we were thinking about calling it something like Overbolted or something like that. And I feel like the reference would just be lost on people, and it would just make our names. It's like personal, you get to know.
Yeah, we're trying to be a little bit more personal about it, but in general, we're just going to talk about speedrunning, and we kind of want to talk, start out to by just talking about something like, because these are just because every day in Discord and things like that, when me and Tab talk, we always end up talking about completely random things and things that we could elaborate on a little more. We just decided, let's just get this on a podcast. So the first one that we went on about was what makes a good speed game, because I hear this from everyone. Everyone keeps talking about like what makes a good speed game. Oh, there should not supposed to be cutscenes. It needs good movement and things like that. It's like, well, it's completely subjective, and what actually makes a good speed game is more or less up to how much you enjoy what you actually do, honestly.
There's like a few things you could talk about to say like what makes a good speed game. I mean, do people like, okay, so do you think that the nostalgia factor, like you see like a lot of popular speed games these days, like your SM64s and your Ocarina of Times and your Super Metroids to some extent, do you think that the nostalgia factor is the driving force behind that, or do you think that they're good speed games in their own right?
I think nostalgia is as much as I'd like to say that it's almost it almost overshadows the greatness of some of the games that we're looking at is ultimately actually a driving not a trickle down effect. What do you call it? It's a chain reaction basically. Because like if you have nostalgia and if a bunch of people have nostalgia and if you know, if you combine popularity and nostalgia, it means that the game is going to get a lot of attention. When the game gets a lot of attention, there's going to be people actually spending time, putting hours into doing runs and finding strats, finding exploits, and figuring out how the game works in emulators and things like that. So there's going to be more people wanting to invest in their time into this game, thus making it ultimately like better.
Yeah, it's almost like those speed games being good is almost a direct result of them being popular. Like the things that they found that have made them better speed games, their sort of level of optimization is due to them being popular, and then it's sort of like they become good out of that. Not that they weren't good before. I mean, I don't really know what like the early days of SM64 or OOT were really like. I mean, I know some stuff, but not enough to be able to be like, oh, this was a good run back then.
Yeah, it's not. People really didn't talk about what a good run was back then either, because like, I mean, if you take Ratchet for example, like I'll tell you right now that the reason I didn't run Ratchet in like 2013, which is like 5 years ago at this point, which is kind of crazy, is because there simply wasn't enough people invested into actually routing the game, and I was more of a runner type thing. There's some people that are more into practicing, and there's more like, you know, doing runs and doing repetitive tasks and making sure you're optimizing your time to the best of your ability, while some people like the routing aspect more and things like that. When there's such an open world game, I don't want to say open world, but like when you have a game with so many opportunities, like with all the different weapons, all the different tricks and things like that Ratchet has, it was a mouthful to route at the time. And one of the only people that really did that was just like one or two people. And Jack was a much easier task to just do runs of. And therefore I did not pick up Ratchet until it actually became more of an optimized speed game. I mean, even this past year, we've seen Ratchet go from like, you know, a good game to like a really good game in terms of speedrunning, because more people have put time into it.
Yeah, we had a real explosion of activity in the game last year.
Mm-hmm.
Over last year was really big. We had your boy, we had me. I think really is the only thing that made it great. Make Ratchet great again. 2017
made Ratchet great again. We had well, how do you argue about that when we have Janky Lad?
Yeah, Yankee Lad. Yeah. If you don't know, he's the sort of paragon of the Ratchet community. Those who do not know his name are sort of damned.
Yeah. Damn, did you hear that? I mean, the thing about Janky and like a lot of other these glitch hunters is they don't actually get a lot of recognition talked about, honestly. Like, unless you find like a really big skip, like someone like Tuvol or Sockfolder or someone like that. You know, like you won't really hear about them very often because their work is like not super appreciated. They're only really appreciated by the runners, which is a small minority of the people interested in Ratchet speedrunning. A lot of people just watch the streamers and watch the runners, not really the glitch hunters. It's
really sad. I mean that year in review video for 2017. It's on my channel.
Check it out.
Check it out. Just a quick plug for the year in review video.
I'll put it in the description.
And I made an effort to talk about Janky in that video because just kind of like what you say, people who aren't like out there getting the fast times in the game, but are still putting a lot of time into it and finding things and being just generally useful, they don't get a lot of credit for stuff when they really should. So yeah, I had quite a lengthy section about Janky actually in the strat hunting for. Yeah, I talked about him 80%. I talked about him in AGB. And he deserved it. Like he put so much time into those games last year, and found plenty of things that we use in runs today.
You know, it's even if you look at it and you say, okay, well, sometimes these glitches that they're finding and these strats that they're finding, they make the game. It's basically a coin flip, is how I'd say it, because sometimes a game is inevitably optimized to be bad. If you take a game like a game I used to run a lot, which is Jack 3, the current any % route of that game is the fastest way to beat the game is to roll jump through the entire map to the desert.
That 80%.
And like, if you compare that, if you compare that to like something like a GTA game, right? It'd be like if you spawned in San Andreas, right? and you spawn in Los Santos, which is like the first sort of area of the game, and you'd have to run all the way across the map on foot, no vehicles, no nothing. It shit would take 10 minutes and stuff like that. It's basically the identical of that, you know? And it has nothing to do with the glitch hunters. It's just, that's the inevitable, you know, that's the end. How do I say it? It's like, that's just how it is, you know? Like, just because the glitch hunters found that and can't find something faster or different, that's not their fault. It's just the inevitable way of optimization, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it creates it for a good game, and sometimes it creates for a bad speed game, basically.
It's interesting that you talk about like San Andreas, because I was thinking about like different genres and the ways in which their speed games are like very different. Like you think about like you know, platformers. Obviously they're almost entirely movement based. You got a bit of menuing in there, but it's mainly movement based.
Yeah, it's mostly movement.
And then you look at, I guess, stuff like JRPGs, right? Very, very different skill set. And I, personally, am of the opinion, maybe an ignorant one for you, that those speed games are not really as interesting or good as a result. They're also pretty fucking long, which is a real negative point, in my opinion. I was wondering, like, what are your thoughts, Ricky? What do you think? Let me probe you for a second.
The thing about the reason I a lot of the time call RPG speedrunning straight up harder than platform speedrunning, for me anyway, I've said this several times, is because because it's actually almost an entirely different like rhythm. You know what I mean? So like when I speedrun Sly Cooper, I know, okay, well, I have to learn the trick and the jump and the movement and cutting corners and things like that, and I just repeat the cycle through different games. I'm like, okay, well, I learned this in Sly Cooper, so I can transfer it over to the next game, and then all of a sudden you're running Final Fantasy VIII or something like that, or Digimon World 3, which I have, or two JRPGs I've ran in the past. And man, oh man, is that a completely different task. Basically, the way I'd put it is, if you're not experienced in the game and all of a sudden, like an hour into the run, you defeat an enemy that all of a sudden has like a 10% drop chance of doing something, you need to know what that does, and you need to know how to utilize that drop or something like that, or figure out if it's useless or not. Because if you don't know everything, the ins and outs of every drop of every enemy and stuff like that, you're potentially losing time because you didn't utilize your knowledge and your knowledge of the game, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think not having like a wide knowledge pool isn't useful in certain aspects of speedrunning. In terms of like in some racks of like platformers or whatever, if you have knowledge about how the game works or about everything in the game, if something goes wrong in your run, you can try and correct it with something else. But I know what you're saying, like that it is more based on that pool of knowledge about the game and sort of like flat out decision making rather than like reaction times or you know, like sort of like technical skill.
Yeah, it's not much about like technical skill. For example, like in a platformer, a lot of the time, let's say you're exiting this 5-second cutscene and you need to hold exactly upright on the stick, and you're doing that while you're in the cutscene and things like that to get perfect movement. It's not like that matters. I mean, like those will appear in JRPGs, but ultimately it's more the other factors like the fights and the drops and decision making ultimately is what makes the what makes your time really good in those type of games. And really like JRPGs speedrunning for the most part anyway is actually more of a challenge run for me, more instead of a speed run. It's more like, can I actually sit here and beat this game in this amount of time? Like it's a challenge I like to put on myself sometimes. Say, can I play this game for 7 hours straight, and can I do a good run, and will I be able to think straight and be able to execute well, like not execute, but like will I be able to have good decision making all the way through this run, basically?
It's like a mental challenge.
Yeah.
You're challenging your mind and like...
Oh yeah, it's a complete mind thing. Because with Ratchet, it's mostly just muscle memory. It's your hands, you know? You just
of course.
remember what buttons you're pressing in
I'm a physical man. I don't like the mind fuckery. I just like to hit buttons.
Also, it's comfy.
Not think. It's comfy? You think JRPGs are comfy?
Oh yeah, I think they're incredibly comfy. Like, if you see someone on pace like 2 hours in, you're not gonna have to worry about the run ending anytime soon, because you got another 4 hours to go. You just put that shit on, and it's, I don't know, you sit back and you do whatever the hell you're doing, and you hear cozy music. JRPGs always have really good music, and it's just nice. I don't know, man. I like JRPGs as like a background thing a lot of the time.
See
They're
for
cozy.
me, like, you talk about cozy. I think that like watching shorter games is like not more cozy, but like I like to follow progression of something. I don't like to think like I sit down and watch a run, right? Because I'm like not doing something, or I'm doing something else for like 10 minutes or whatever. The fact that like I couldn't like just sit down and watch that run to its completion, that kind of like bugs me. Like, oh, I can watch you for 20 minutes, but you know, let's say I'm watching like Zost, right? Comfy ass stream. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Comfy ass stream. I'm watching Zost. He's on pace, right? Like, I can drop what I'm doing at that point and just watch him close out that run. I can not. I feel like if I was watching a JRPG and it was on pace 2 hours in, I'd be like, this doesn't really intrigue me because
there's still so much to go.
There's still so much to go that in 4 hours' time, I'm not going to be in this room anymore. I'm going to be off doing something else. So I sort of, you know, I could potentially degen that entire stream, but most of the time I don't have, you know, 6 hours in a row on my hands to just sit down and watch a JRPG stream.
No, I get it. I think, I mean, it all depends. If you're more of a completionist that wants to watch things from beginning to end, I fully get that.
I think that the appeal for me with watching speedruns on Twitch or wherever it is I like to see people on pace, and I like the excitement of people on pace and being like, you know, are they going to close out this run? If it's a PB, whatever, like, I think that it doesn't even matter if it's anywhere near like record pace. If I go into a chat and I see someone on pace, whatever game it is, whatever time it is, whatever skill level it is, that excites me. I love it. There's like a base level of fucking excitement you see when you go on that stream and you say, wow, he's a minute ahead, or he's 30 seconds ahead. Like, is he going to finish this out?
There's also the excitement factor of like, if someone PBs and then comes back in 2 days, the next, like, you know, or the next day or something like that, and he pretty much PBs again, you're gonna keep watching that streamer because that, you know, that streamer's playing hot that week. You know, you want to come back for more. You don't want to miss the next PB that person's gonna get. Yeah. So that's also a thing. So they can carry through several days and stuff like that.
It's a funny thing as well. Just looking at my own stream, and not just my own stream. I see it in everyone else's, as a lot of other people as well. You see people on all levels of streaming. My level up to, like, you know, huge streamers like your Distortions, your Zosts, your fucking Chizo Fives. They're on pace, and they get, you know, people come in halfway through, and it's exactly what I was saying earlier. There's a base level of excitement seeing someone on pace, and they stay. If somebody comes in and you're buried in resets, there's a higher chance that they'll just leave after like 5 resets or something.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes into a stream, the best thing they could possibly hoping for is that you're on pace to break your PB or on pace to break a world record, so they'll stay. So the viewer counts obviously just skyrocket towards the end of world good pace runs, and then as soon as that run's over, if it chokes, then, you know, that's it. Everyone just goes.
Yeah, no, I understand most of that because, like,
people just love seeing pace.
And people also love seeing when things are fast. There's, like, you know, thing after thing after thing. It's like, you know, I think it excites people that, you know, that speed games are difficult. So as soon as you do one difficult thing, you can't take a breather. It's basically like, oh well, there's another hard thing coming up in about 2 minutes, basically. And the reason I don't take JRPG speedrunning serious, besides this one game that's an exception for me, for the most part, the reason I run platformers and stuff like that is, of course, the negatives. There are quite a lot of negatives. I don't have like a billion years to do these things. I don't want to, like, that's why I'm saying it's more of a challenge run for me, because it's one of those things I do like doing every once in a while. And I say, well, I kind of want to do this again. This was fun. But it's not something that I want to dedicate my time and mainly grind to, because there's like cutscenes, text mashing my arm gets fucking worn out after like, you know, hours of doing it, essentially.
I've noticed replaying Dark Souls, running, my left thumb gets so fucking sore because the entire time I'm just holding forward on the stick to like run. You know, like because half of that game is just running. There's a lot of obviously like smaller things you do. There's a lot of the menuing in that game is insane. I'll never understand how top runners can menu as fast as they can.
Oh, menuing is so hard.
It's ridiculous how
I'm
fast.
so bad at menuing, honestly.
Like Capitaine and Camille like menu through stuff. They can like drop stuff on like warps that I sit there and I practice it for 5 minutes and I don't even get close to doing it at the speed they do. So it's crazy. But yeah, it's funny you say that because my thumb hurts so fucking much from just holding the stick forward for like a couple of minutes, doing something else, holding the stick forward again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also really funny because when I was running Kingdom Hearts for a little while, my arm was starting to feel sore at the very beginning, but when I kept playing it for like a month and a half, I felt like my muscle building. Like, yeah, I felt like fucking stronger. And I was like, what's going on here? Have I really been mashing this much to the point where I'm actually gaining muscle from fucking speedrunning over here? Like, Jesus Christ.
It's a workout. It's an exercise.
It is. Gotta hit that X button. Gotta get those combos out.
Gotta shed those calories.
I wonder if calories, or like, I wonder if like a physical workout is kind of like, you know, if that creates for better mentality as well. Cause I hear a lot of people that are like, you know, when people, I hear a lot of full-time streamers that are competitive as well. Like, They say that they like to wake up and they like to have a specific routine, working out, including one of them, being a key factor in their mentality and keeping up with their pace and being good at speedrunning. Like, working out is a part of that. I'm curious on your take.
That is, it's interesting because it's not something I've ever really considered. I'm a fat, lazy, degenerate slob. I'm not fat. For the record, I'm not fat at all. But I am
just
lazy,
gotta clarify.
I'm
not fat.
I'm skinny as fuck, but I am a lazy degenerate. So that's the other two are right. I think it makes sense, right? I mean, they say to you when you're trying to quit smoking, as I currently still am, that exercise is a good builder up for that because it releases like, I don't know, fucking chemicals and shit. Like dopamine or serotonin or one of those ones. And it makes you feel good about yourself. So if you've got like a bad mentality, you know, do some working out, get that good shit, that drug release in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll help you out. I feel like I'm not qualified enough to speak about this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I'm qualified either, but I think it's interesting to discuss because I think the reason you said that you don't do it and the reason I don't do it is because we haven't necessarily needed it to get a good time. I wonder if it would actually improve my time all of a sudden. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to get that sub 20, baby.
I find myself recently, I've been running RAG almost exclusively the same category for about a year now. Any percent. It was some sprinklings of AGB and NG+, but mostly any percent. And it is an interesting question to have. It is an interesting discussion to have of how do you keep a good mentality. We see people coming in to the RAG community all the time, or just people in the wider speedrunning community that I would say do not have a good mentality about their runs, that act in a certain way that I think is very counterproductive to them. And it's just in their nature, they can't really help it, but it's very counterproductive to them improving their times.
Yeah, it has to do with their personality as well in that regard.
Yeah, and it's hard for me because I'm sort of reaching a point right now where I'm getting more, I think, burnt out than I ever have been on RAG at any percent. And I know have I told you about this before, by the way, that I'm having this like massive rut right now about this?
Not exactly. I told you told me that you have been streaming like a few times, but that you were getting tired of it. That's basically.
I don't think it's streaming. I think it's more ratchet. I'm not sure. I mean, at the moment, I'm kind of strapped for time anyway.
I mean,
but
there
it's
you go.
mainly,
That does bring back the topic of mentality.
well, that was where I was coming from. It's sort of like it's in a conversation I'm having with myself now, where I'm like, how do I get back on top? I know I've had this attitude to my runs before, where I have this like feedback loop of whenever I feel like shit, I move away from it. I do something else, and then invariably, and this is the thing that I think is why people stick with speedrunning longer than they stick with other hobbies. The reason I'm bouncing around so much with loads of different things, and I always like get a hobby and I drop it in a week, or I get a hobby and I drop it in a month, or whatever. I think the reason that speedrunning is so effective at keeping people for a long time is because the community around it, and when you develop it, when you get integrated into a community, people are always talking about speedrunning. People are always talking about every other game and people on pace all the time. You go into Twitch streams and you see someone on pace and you see someone close out a PB, and you get that fucking drug release in your brain from seeing that. The thing you always think, the thing that I always think after that is, fuck, I want to improve my time now. I want to go back to my game, and I want to fucking do better.
That always happens. There's always someone on pace out there. You can go to the community tab on Twitch. You can go to speedrunning, find someone with 1 viewer or whatever. He'll be on pace. Like it's going to happen, you know. And you talked about being tired of it and being and seeing other people improve their time, and all of a sudden you want to come back and improve your time, even though you're tired of it. You get a little bit of drive either way, but don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with taking a break. I mean, look at fucking me. How many games have I ran? Like 18, 20 games or whatever the fuck over the past 5 years. Really what keeps me fresh on speedrunning for the most part is it's an aspect where you can, if you say you want to run a new game, you enter a Discord where like you basically don't know anybody, and you are introduced to all the runners. It's a breath of fresh air. You see all these new runners, this whole new community, see how they do things, what kind of ruling they have, and who the familiar faces are and things like that, and what you do in the run, people trying to help you, and like it's a whole new game. It's a whole new experience basically, which is why I like switching games quite a lot. Is because I get to meet new people and I get to play different games, basically. Just familiarize myself with new stuff in speedrunning.
Do you think that helps your mentality?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've actually got I definitely want to say I have more of a problem coming back to games that I've used to run and try to pick up where my PB left off, instead of because one of the things, without going super in depth about this, I ran God of War in the summer of 2017, and I had never played the game before, but I was so intrigued by a guy named Sir Sanju at the ESA event, which you guys might know. It's the European equivalent of AGDQ. He was playing God of War, and he was showing me all the tricks. He was teaching me how to infinite jump and stuff like that. It was super fun, so when I got home, I wanted to try it out for myself. And coming from never having played the game to a month and a half later having a world record was an insane accomplishment, because it was so fresh and it was such a brand new game I'd never played, that I just played it in and out for day in and day out. And coming back to that game, it would take me weeks to be able to even top my PB. So for me, it's kind of like a train where as soon as I pick up something new, I'm better off just sticking to it for as long as I can. And for the longer I can keep the train rolling, the lower I can push my time. But coming back will be very hard. Basically, like starting up the train again is going to be harder than anything else. So for the most part, I don't even try. I pick up a new train, like a new game or a new category or anything like that, and I do the train thing all over. So that's what helps me personally keep me in speedrunning.
It's interesting to hear you say that. I mean, just thinking about like Rack 1 NG Plus. You were doing that in 2016, and it took you over a year to come to revisit this category, right? You came back in like October last year. Something like that. Or no, it's more like November. So that's I mean, speaking to someone, I think we got a good dynamic, Ricky, because because you have this sort of like old boy perspective on a lot of things. You've been around in the speedrunning community for a lot longer than I have.
A little longer.
A little longer. I said a lot longer actually, but it may have sounded like a little longer.
Okay.
I've been around. Well, I have been running for about 3 years, but I've only really been active in the community for the last year or so. I definitely only started streaming about a year ago. I did Dark Souls all bosses for like 2 years, and I just ate so much fucking shit at that game. I was so fucking bad at it. I loved it so much. I loved it. I really just wanted to get.
Even if you're bad, that's the great part.
That's it, right? I was still dedicated to the run. I still wanted to drive my time lower and lower, even though I fucking sucked. Because it was fun for me. It was never about. World record for me, because I know, it was, and that's another thing. That's another thing that sort of links back to mentality. It's people. A lot of people.
Oh boy!
Start
the hot take.
This is the shade part of the podcast, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of people start running and get so fixated on world record, it's stupid, and they want world record, and you're sort of thinking like, what the fuck?
What are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing? Like, you haven't even got a fucking run in yet. You're seeing this like, I could do better than that. You don't know anything about this game yet. Like, fucking start running it. Yeah, don't look at world record. Get a time in, and then focus on beating your time. It's fine to learn off world record. It's fine to
analyze what he's done on the record.
Yeah. It's fine. I think it's fine, even to some extent, to have it as a goal to get a time close to record, right? I think that's okay. It's that people get so fixated on it, and that's all they can talk about is world record and all that sort of thing. And I'm sort of sat there looking. I'm like, you need to sort of get on your own level. That's what I was doing when I was running Dark Souls. I was looking at world record, and I was trying to learn off of it, but I was performing to my own level. There was stuff that world record does that's like way too risky for me.
Yeah.
Like, for an example,
there's no reason to go for it.
For example, right? Okay, so there is a boss in Dark Souls, or bosses called it's the Guardian. It's the first boss. I forget what the full name is. But it's the first boss in the DLC. And to get to that boss, you have to run from a bonfire for about 2 minutes. Something like 2 minutes. And when you get there, there's another bonfire right before it's like the checkpoint. You're familiar with bonfires in Dark Souls games?
Yeah, I am.
There's another bonfire right before the fog gate that you go into the boss room, right? And in World Records, they would fight that boss with Red Tearstone Ring, which means you can't take the bonfire, but you do more damage. And if you get hit once in that fight, that means you die. And you lose 2 minutes because you have to run all the way back. And you fucking damn right, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
I'm starting out.
Fuck that.
I take the bonfire. I don't do it with Red Tearstone Ring, so I don't have to get hit. And I don't lose that much time. And it's like, these are the strats that you need to be doing when you're thinking about it when you're just starting out, and
really
sort of
you need to
implement them later on. You see people.
Well, when you start out, right, like, you need to look at the strat that you're doing, and you need to be like, well, how much does this save? Okay, it saves 10 seconds. How much does this lose? Okay, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Is this worth it for me? Is it easy? Is it hard?
Especially when the range of time saves you're looking to get in your runs like outweigh the amount of time that you're going to save.
If you can save minutes, there's no reason to go for something that saves 10 seconds and loses 3, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're essentially killing your run at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a bad decision to make when you're in that sort of window of time. And people, exactly what we're talking about. Okay, let's talk about cineflips in Rack 1, right?
Oh boy.
If you don't know, cineflips.
I'll post the link in the description so you can see the trick.
Okay, yeah, cineflips. We'll have a picture of the trick, but basically all you need to know for this conversation is that it's incredibly hard to pull off when you're starting out. And it takes... I don't think I know anyone that it didn't take at least... with a couple of exceptions, with like at least a month or two to really get consistent.
Yeah.
It certainly took me months.
Yeah, it took me a month for sure.
It probably took me... I mean, the first time people... you said it's funny because when you were learning cineflips and you were having such a hard time with it, you said to me something like, "Oh, you got lucky." And I was do you remember I got quite angry at you when you said that, because I was like, I didn't fucking get lucky.
I think it's because I definitely got cocky at the time, because I think having ran games for 5 years, I'm always expecting myself to understand how to get specific tricks faster than what I usually would back in the day. But when something like that came up that took me a month, it was quite a task. But I think people are understanding our point to get across is that you don't need to do time saves that you shouldn't be doing. What I actually want to bring up in regards to this is streamers, possibly myself being guilty of it included, is portraying world record as being something that's very important. Because I see a lot of people come into the community, they ask, like, They say they want world record, and where is this coming from? It's coming from the big streamers that are portraying world record as the only thing that matters in speedrunning, but really it's not. Because if you put world record attempts in your title, right, it's going to attract more viewers, because people are like, oh, world record, I've heard of that as a kid. That was in Guinness. That's some cool shit.
Yeah, right.
That's some cool shit.
It's interesting though, because if you want to expose yourself and grow your channel or whatever, I understand completely why people put the spotlight on world record as it does, because it gets views, right? People want to see world records being set. That's exciting stuff, and they are more significant than just anybody's PB. Like, that's almost a fact, right? People are improving. There are people that have done this faster. They are. If somebody's got a world record, it's literally, quite literally, the lowest amount of time anyone's ever beaten that particular game in that category, whatever. So they are significant. I think it's sort of a balance between this is the effect that you're going to generate. This sort of people coming in new to speedrunning, all they care about is world record. It's sort of balancing that against trying to sensationalize speedrunning to the people that are watching it, trying to make it exciting, trying to make it good to watch, trying to get people interested in it. That's like one of the very easy ways to do that, and I don't think it's a bad thing to do that. But then you have to have a conversation with people who come in and want to say speedrunning. It's like, listen, speedrunning is first and foremost competition with yourself. Yeah, it's about self-improvement. It's not about other people. You can get competitive, but you should definitely not start out that way. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people also when they start out with things like that is I have quite a strong opinion on that in the sense that I think a lot of people are quite lazy when it comes to learning things these days. Because when I ran in 2012 and 2013, I had no resources on anything whatsoever. There was no videos out there. There was no movement guides. There was no any percent tutorial. There was no videos on specific tricks. It's you watched the best run that there was, and you did what he did, but you tried to find everything that he didn't do, because there's probably so much to be explored because no one was playing at the time. And now that we have all these resources, there's still people out there that don't understand the core concept that if you want to speedrun, you don't even need to put that much time into it, but you need to put time into it. It's just so important.
Speedrunning. It's always been your progress has always been a function of how much time you put into it. This is the thing that you sort of need to get into people as well, where it's like, you're not gonna see results that you want unless you just sink time into things. You're getting this trick, you try it for 15 minutes, you can't get it, you need to just keep going. Like, it's so funny, and the thing that I've said a lot about stuff like this is it's so funny how almost every new trick or strat or whatever that I practice, I start out by thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to do this in runs. It's impossible for me. I can't do it. And then,
everyone does it.
And then a week down the line, and this is what you kind of need to explain to people, a week down the line, a month down the line, you're annoyed when you don't get it first try, because it's the standard now. And that's what it does. You just always go up and up and up and up. Like, tricks in games that I just think, I can never do this in a run. It's impossible. I can only get it I've never got it. It took me an hour to get it once. And then the next hour you get it twice.
Yeah.
And then the next hour you get it 5 times or whatever. And it's an exponential process. The more time you spend on it, the faster you will improve at it.
It's like people don't really know what they can do or can't do until you try, basically. Like, there's always a sort of a limit as to what you can do until you try. It's just the first thing you see when you see something in a game that looks fucking crazy. No, I can't do that. No way. Like, there's no way.
But
you don't know until you try.
Well, no, and it's getting over that initial barrier as well. You sort of get in there, you try it, and you fucking fail miserably because of course you do. You don't know what you're doing yet. You haven't fleshed out anything. You need to try stuff. You need to figure out your own shit. Keep trying it, and then I think at least get it once. You know, if you're trying a big trick, at least get it once, and then just try and break through that mental barrier of that I could never do this, because that is
small steps.
More than anything, your own mentality on that front is what's setting you back. And I mean, we say I've heard people say that, like, speedrunning is like 70% mentality, 30% skill, and I feel like I'm very close to believing that as well. I've had
it's very it's true, because under mentality is also discipline and like repetition and things like that.
Yeah. It's funny when you get just a drought of PBs. A drought of PBs where you just have a huge period of time where you're not seeing any improvement, and you get really frustrated with yourself. It's like a downward spiral, because the more frustrated you get tilted, you get frustrated, more small mistakes just annoy you so much, and they make your progress just nothing. So I think you need to find a way to break out of that, and I think. I mean, I had a period of a whole month back in like 2017 where I didn't PB, and I was trying every day. It was a whole month I didn't PB, and I was trying almost every day. And then I got one PB, and I PB'd 4 times in one day. The first day I PB'd, after that month, I PB'd 3 more times that day. And it's just goes to show that, like, when you finally break through that mental barrier and do something, you can like open the floodgates to progress at that point. And it's interesting to it's kind of remarkable for me to think that that was at a point where I'm nowhere near the skill level I am now. So there was nothing setting back that progress. It's not like I'd reached my skill limit, because that was when I was in like the 40-minute range of any percent. And now my times are 32. But still, when I was in that 40-minute range, there was a whole month, right, where I wasn't getting anywhere. And it wasn't because I'd reached my skill level.
Yeah, a block.
It was because I had a mental block. And when people think, oh, maybe I've just reached my skill level, that's bullshit. You just have to work through it.
Yeah, anyone can actually do it if they just have the right mindset. But there's so many people that like put a barrier on how much, like, let's say there's there's like a section that they practice and things like that. People practice that for 3 hours for that day. Maybe it's insanely hard and 3 hours is not enough to see improvement, and people just go, I don't know why I didn't improve today. That's so stupid. Like, and then they make like a bunch of tweets. They tell all the community members like, why is this so stupid and things like that. It's like there are specific things that take more time than you would imagine, and this is really the thing I have to talk about is people a lot of the time ask me like how do I say this without sounding like a jackass, basically. Like, people ask me how I'm so good, basically. And like, I don't feel like I'm good. I just feel like I've been in it for long enough to know what I'm doing, basically. Like, you would expect if you were doing the same thing over and over again for 5 or 6 years, you'd be good at it as well. Like, I'm telling you right now, if I was playing like Ratchet, and if I was practicing one level, and it took me 3 hours to improve whatever I wanted to improve 4 years ago, it would have taken me an hour today, because I have a better understanding of what I'm practicing, how the routine of what I'm practicing works, what I'm trying to figure out. I've just got a better flow chart in my head of what I'm doing, and that's why it takes less time. And the newer people keep thinking that it should also take them 1 hour, but you always start out somewhere. It just takes different time for different people.
It's a function of experience. It's sort of like as you're learning how to learn. You're learning what works for you. You're learning what doesn't. And the more you do that, the faster you'll get at doing stuff. So you can't look at the way top runners do things and think, you know, oh, it should take me that amount of time. You could follow the process, definitely. Like that's a good thing to look at.
Yeah, but it might
how
take you more time.
They do stuff, but it might take you more time because they could be doing small things or considering small things that you don't know because you're not as familiar with the game as they are or whatever. Or
just the concept of running. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like something. I was just gonna say something I always tell a lot of people as well is like when you run for several years, you gain these little 2% edges here and there, of like, you know, like I don't know, like you get a CRT for example instead of playing on something with a little more lag. That gives you that like 2% advantage over what you were before. And then you understand how tricks flow more easily. That's another 2% that you're adding on to your repertoire of like, how good am I at speedrunning, you know? And those just add up. Like you figure out these small things the more you do it, you know? It's like playing a fighting game. It's like understanding matchups as well. That's a little off topic, but like you understand what I mean. It's just, you know, adding things to your repertoire.
Another thing I wanted to say, back when we were talking about not seeing progress, is that it reminded me again and of the Cineflips thing, and I wanted to talk about specifically your experience with Cineflips again, because you had this experience where like, am I right in saying like this is would you say it's the hardest trick you've ever learned?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. So
for the first time, you sort of had this experience where it was taking you way longer than you thought to improve, yeah? And you were getting really quite frustrated with that. And obviously, that doesn't help the mentality. That doesn't help your progress with learning. And, I mean, again, what I would say, even if you're improving really slowly, and it's something I did say to you at the time many times, is try and, like, zoom out and look at the big picture. Even if it's taking you really... not a lot of time. Even if it's taking you a really long time. What I was saying to Ricky was like, well, think about it, right? You still can't get it consistently, but you got this trick once last week.
Yeah.
Right? You were just constantly trying and you couldn't get it all. You're getting it once last week. And this week, you're getting it twice a day. Even though you're practicing for 4 hours, right? And you still sat there thinking, well, this sucks. I can never do this in runs. But... and you might have another week after that where you suck again, but the point is that the general trend in what you're doing is progress. Even though you might have a day where you just suck dick and you don't get it once. The general trend that if you zoom out and look at it is that you are actually getting better, and you'll have good days. I think
I'm just happy I actually pushed through.
Exactly.
Is the thing. I'll tell you right the fuck now.
100%. I credit myself with that 100%. I sat through so much of your whiny bullshit.
Fuck off. No, it's so fucking worth it. Is the thing. A lot of people, a lot of the time also say like that they want to push their time further, but they don't want to sink time into things. The reason why sinking time into things you don't want to do is because it's fucking like. I'll tell you right now, the reason I speedrun and I stay top level is because it's such a rush to spend so much fucking boring ass time on something, and then you were like, fuck, it actually paid off. I cannot believe that happened and that I did that.
It's like fucking it's that, and just seeing
you're on cloud nine.
Being very aware of improvement that you're making, of being very aware of progress. It's like fucking crack cocaine, and that's another.
It's right. It's
huge. It's huge, and that's another reason why I think people will stick with speedrunning, because for longer than they do other hobbies, because the improvement that you see in speedrunning in other hobbies, right? When you improve, you have to sort of go out of your way to demonstrate to yourself that you've improved. But in speedrunning, there's a very, very clear, definite metric for your improvement, and that's the time you have. So if
Yeah.
you're PBing, you're improving, and you're very noticeably improving, and you're noticing all the time that you're improving.
That's what's good about speedrunning as well.
So you just say,
There's
I'm going to
there's
keep
an
going. I'm
external-
going to keep going until I stop improving. And then you always get better and better, and you keep focusing on smaller and smaller time saves or whatever it is. You know, you get closer and closer to a optimized time. But you never lose that sense of, I can do better. I know I can do better. You always have those little
always
room.
do better.
You always have room for improvement in whatever skill level you're in. Whether, I mean, when you're starting out, you know, you make massive mistakes and lose huge amounts of time, and then you go to, you know, what you think. Well, maybe I could just get a run where I don't make those massive mistakes. But then you get a run where you don't make those massive mistakes, and you think, well, you know,
my movement was bad.
Yeah, my movement was bad, or I didn't do this so well. So you still have these things, and you start focusing on your smaller and smaller time saves, and you just never run out. You really do never run out of stuff
that's what's
that
so
you
great.
think is very possible for you to improve on.
There's an external factor that just tells you that you did this better. It's like when you're playing the guitar, it's kind of like if you're in the 1,000-hour range of playing a guitar, you know, noticing improvement between the one, again, I don't speak from experience, but between the 1,000-hour mark and the 1,500-hour mark can be maybe arbitrary and hard to see what you improve. But you literally have a timer right there saying, and you have a leaderboard ranking, and you're rising.
It's a very, very, what's the word? It's very, very obvious positive feedback that you're getting from your hobby. You know, you say like, playing guitar, I definitely resonate with that, and I've played guitar for a while, and it's a lot harder for me to stay motivated on practicing because I guess it is that you don't really have that. It happens in some respects. It happens in some respects, but sometimes you just don't feel yourself improving, and you don't have that positive feedback, so it doesn't really stick with you. Sometimes I do get that sometimes. I mean, when I finally like figure out how to play a riff or something and it sounds amazing and I feel amazing playing it, that is apparent, but it's never more apparent than it is with speedrunning, in my opinion.
I also think there's you know a set of speedrunners that seem to also, if they're not improving, seem to like I was on about before how people compare themselves to others. I think a lot of those people also look at themselves and say, well, that person is just good at games, like there's nothing I can do about that. Like that's
get in the fucking bin. Honestly, like fucking anyone can do this. Anyone can do this. That's the
only difference
between
between me and that person is that I figured out the key to practicing, and I figured out my discipline and patience, and I figured out what it takes.
Fucking time into it, and you know how to manage your time effectively in order to achieve the goals that you want, and that's what it is, right? Repetition. I mean, you can talk about we talk about this positive feedback and motivating you all the time, but when it gets down to levels like you're in with NG Plus right now, where your time saves are so minute, they're so close.
I don't have a single 10-second time save
in the 3-4 second range max, where it really stops being about motivation and it starts being about discipline. It starts being about, I don't want to do this, but I know I'm going to be incredibly satisfied long term when I finally break through and do it. So I don't want to do this run, but I'm going to do it because I want to do it for improvement. And people might say, like, what's the point of that? Because speedrunning is a hobby, and if you're not enjoying doing it, then why are you doing it in the first place? And that can be sort of true. It can be an indicator if you want to take a break or not. But I think long term, people still want to put this effort in because they know they know long term. That's the key. The long term payoff is what people are looking at that point. They're not looking at, I can PB today. They're looking at, I need to put practice in today. I need to do attempts today. It also carries into.
No, I was just gonna say it carries into other aspects of life as well. When you do speedrunning and when you do things that you don't want to do, but it'll pay off long term. It adds to different aspects in life. Maybe your room is dirty or some shit like that, and you take that from speedrunning and you say, wow, I don't want to do this right now, but it'll pay off long term.
100%.
You can
say this
put
to
that
people.
into your room that's fucking dirty, and you say I'm going to clean my room, and it'll look good in long term. It'll look good for a while. You know?
I say this to people all the time, and I get laughed at. And it's being part of the speedrun. There's two things really. There's two points to this. Is that being part of doing speedrunning has given me a sense of perspective on other things in life. Literally, I'm not joking
Oh,
when
yeah,
I say
same
that.
here.
Aspects of my life, I do better now because of speedrunning, 100%. And two, being part of communities that are always encouraging people to do better. Literally, we have a Discord where people are posting times, or where people post their PBs or whatever, and we talk about
strats,
Ratchet. And people are always encouraging other people to improve their times. It's like, okay, somebody posts a 43 rack 180%. Like, oh, awesome, dude, like, fantastic, glad you PB'd, can't wait to see it go lower. Like, that sort of thing. There's always a pressure on people to just keep going, just keep pushing themselves. And that literally, it sounds stupid because it's fucking video games, but I say it to other people, and I'm like, that mentality, that always pushing and challenging yourself, even though it's just in a video game context, you can extend that logic to anything else in life and just do fucking well at it. Like, and it's never a mentality I've really had before. Oh, it's kind of sad to say that, but it's true.
There's just nothing better than actually feeling good about yourself. Like, I'll tell you right now, I don't think I would have been as confident of a person to do something like a fucking podcast if it weren't for speedrunning either, because speedrunning made me feel like I was good at something, and it made me feel like I could actually do things as well. So literally, not only does it help your daily routine, it literally helps your self-esteem and who you are as a person as well. It's actually developed me incredibly positively, being as competitive as I am, because competitive nature is just super healthy for me personally as well. Like, if I didn't do this, I don't know what I would have been doing, It's good. Yeah. And again, the helpful community helps out so much.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking hectic, honestly. Like, we went in. Like, if you're not encouraged by any of what was just said, fucking get out and do your first run, man. Do your first run. We have so many resources these days.
I had to just take a little break there because I was like, Jesus, I just expanded my brain.
Fucking big brain, the cosmic brain.
Yeah, I think that's my advice, I think, to anyone that is listening right now and they're sort of on the fence about a game, or about just starting speedrunning in any sense. Just fucking jump in. Just see what happens. You don't have to spend more than 20 minutes on it if you don't want. But if you get started and you get interested, then just keep going. Just start. Because it's fucking sick.
Yeah. You'll do a lot of positives for yourself. It keeps you, like, you actually get started and you dedicate yourself to doing a project, which I know a lot of people I know a lot of people that are really smart, but they don't really do anything, like, with their intelligence, or so to say, and putting that into a disciplined mindset where you say, okay, I'm going to do this thing right now. That's healthy. You also make a lot of friends in the community. If you keep going for a while, you'll be, a valuable community member. You might end up finding a strat or two, and it's just a friendly place. And you might even get to see some of the people you meet online in real life, which I can't tell you how many of the, like, I have met, through the 5-6 years I've been speedrunning.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, being a sort of relatively new boy, I have actually never met anyone that I met from speed. Oh no, that's not true. I have met one person before that just incidentally goes to the same university as me, and he's a rack 3. He's an Ouya runner called Captain Wiffle, and he just goes to the same uni as me. And
that's crazy.
I met him, like, just incidentally. It's crazy, small world. And I met him like a few weeks ago. He's a lot taller than I thought. I was a lot shorter than he thought.
I mean, yeah. That's what's so great is, it's like a small hobby just gets you together to share so many things, and you make good friends with it. I've actually kind of gotten semi-recognized as well, where I was on my stream and I was saying how, my school, like, this was a few years ago. This was like definitely 3 years ago. I said how, like, my school had this little running contest sort of thing, where, like, everyone had, like, a national sports day where you ran 6-7 kilometers, however long the running trip was or whatever. And there was a guy in my chat that was like, okay, well, that's funny because my school had the same thing. And he's like, yeah, I swear I've seen you walk around the school. And then I got recognized. And he walked up to me and he said, yo, I watch your stream. He was like a sub as well.
That's absolute. That's nuts.
Yeah, no, that's so great.
I've had people...
it's crazy when your stream grows that much to the point where people like recognize you.
Yeah, I haven't had that, obviously. I'm like not as big as you. But I have had I post about my stream sometimes on like my personal social media stuff, and I've had people who I don't really know in like who I know, like mutual friends and stuff.
Yeah,
who I don't really talk to, but I've had people like that come up to me and say, "Hey, I've been watching you on Twitch for a few weeks now, and I think your stream's great." And I'm like, holy shit, this is weird. Like, thank you so much. You know, fucking, you know, I maybe seen this person's face like twice. You know, a friend of a friend. I never spoke to them, and they're just like, yo, the stuff you do is fucking dope. And I'm like, wow, thank you. You know,
it's actually actually so great when people
that
like
experience before. Yeah, it's awesome when people feel like they can go out of their way to say that the shit you do, they enjoy it. That's really what's the word? It's a really positive feeling that it gives you.
Especially because there's so many things.
It's really encouraging.
Yeah, of course. I feel like that's a big encouragement, especially because there's so many things these days that are focused around like the point of like content creation being so I don't know how to say it. I don't want to call anyone out or anything like that, but there is definitely videos on YouTube that's getting quite a lot of exposure that's portraying speedrunning in a poor manner, I'd say sometimes. I'm not saying all of it's bad. I'm just saying it's more or less a 50-50 whether or not it's going to be, wow, this is encouraging people to speedrun, great work on this video, or more like, wow, these guys are stupid, they're ruining nostalgia and they're cheating in games and shit like that. It's basically just like the normie mentality looking at it and things like that. So I've had people, you know, like I had when I went to school, like people always discussed with me like whether or not like glitches are cheating and shit like that. I'm like, I went through this conversation like a billion times. Can we not right now?
It's interesting. I kind of want to talk about this as well. I think I mean, you've been dealing with this for longer than I have, and I've got some theories about it, but I would like to know where you think this comes from. This whole, like, it's not a real speedrun if people use exploits. It's not a real, like, where do you think this comes from? That people think this?
Deep down, I think it's more or less on nostalgia, to be honest.
People remember playing a game a certain way, and they see that the game's not being played that way in the speedrun, and people get quite... The thing is that I never really understand is that people get quite vitriolic about it. Like, they don't just fucking say, oh, this isn't for me. They're like, you're fucking like, fuck you. This is fucking, you know, like, they get really fucking mad. And you're
they get
like,
really mad.
How do you care about that? You're not involved in speedrunning at all. Why do you care so much in a negative
it's like
way?
you played this 10 years ago. Like, it's not like I'm ruining a part of your life. Yeah. If I really am ruining a part of your life, why the fuck are you watching, and why are you going out of your way to talk about it, you know? Because like a lot of people don't realize that speedrunning actually keeps retro gaming alive a lot. Like, what else would he fucking do? Another playthrough? That's been done a million times?
I mean, well, that's how people found... That's certainly how I found speedrunning. It was a way to breathe life back into games that I just wanted to keep playing. And it was Dark Souls at the time. I'd finished my SL1 playthrough. I'd finished, like, some other challenge runs, and I thought, I don't really want to do another challenge run, but... And I get so bored just playing through the game casually over and over again. So I wanted a way to breathe new replay value into it, and I think speedrunning, it's just what's the word I'm looking for? It's inevitable. Whenever you have that sort of feeling about a game where you just want to keep playing it, you love the game so much that you just want to keep playing, speedrunning is just always the final destination because it gives games infinite amounts of replay value.
Yeah, literally infinite. You can always improve, and you can always do different things. It's like even if you're doing like let's say you're playing God of War or whatever, you know, you can do like 7 playthroughs with each individual costume, and you can do it on like the hardest difficulty or whatever. But eventually you're gonna run out. Like, what else do you have left? You know?
Yeah,
you could do different
exactly.
run-throughs of different skill sets, and like just like all the Fallout games as well. Like, you have so many ways. I mean, there's obviously more in Fallout, but you get the idea. If you spend enough time, you might run out.
Yeah, and to the point. I mean, it was challenge runs. That was the thing. I was trying to figure out ways to make games harder for myself. It wasn't just Dark Souls I was doing this with. I did it with like some old games that I really loved as well. I was trying to figure out new challenges that I could have, and challenge runs are very, very close in spirit to speedruns, I would say. So like, it's a very small leap from challenge run to speedrun. And even,
but,
you know, I mean...
you know what the funny part is?
What?
Like, what I find really funny is, I mentioned earlier that there's a lot of videos being made that portray us in a specific way. I never see a video of some person saying that speedrunning is cheating. It's just YouTube comments and lazy people, for the most part, saying,
well, yeah, I mean,
they don't want to argue. They don't want to argue why. As soon as you tell them this is in the game,
that's pretty easy to see why, because it's sort of a base reaction. It's sort of a reaction from someone that hasn't really thought this through, right?
Yeah.
If somebody started making a video where they were like, I want to put this glitching is cheating, unintended, blah blah blah, argument across, they start doing researching for a video, and they start compiling evidence and stuff, and they start trying to centralize this point that they're making. And as you learn more about speedrunning and about the games you're trying to talk about, you realize this idea of sort of glitchless, if you want to call it, just breaks down in a dramatic way. So really, it is purely ignorance based that this comes from.
Also incredibly subjective as well.
And as soon as you actually start to learn more and educate yourself, well, yeah, this is the point. Like, glitchless generally is incredibly subjective. Whatever was developer intended, and you might scoff at that if you don't speedrun. And this is a conversation for another time, I think, because we could talk for a very, very long time about why glitchless categories are, for the most part, incredibly arbitrary.
Arbitrary and subjective, yeah.
What is a glitch is incredibly subjective.
I think you saying it being a conversation for another day, I'm going to go ahead and link a video about that in the description of Easyscape's video about glitchless. I actually think it's a super well-made video talking a lot about glitchless and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description as well. You can check that out later. Super well-made video.
Yeah, actually, I think I remember the video. I know I have watched it. But I think I remember it, and it's it's a good summary of why you can't just do that.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
why I think you never really see any huge structured arguments against these against glitches or exploits, because as soon as you start to learn more about the games and about the culture of speedrunning, you sort of realize that it's not
as hard. It's not as easy as
it's not an unreasonable thing to just allow everything, you know. And if there's something that totally, completely rips the game in half, like wrong warp glitches and stuff as well, you know, that most people, that completely change the way the run's done, you're always going to see categories that ban that.
Yeah,
you're going to see categories that
play more of the game.
So the option is always there for you to just go and watch a run that's more like a run that you want to watch.
Yeah. And like I've seen several times on my Jack 3 any percent, you know, like, which is like a 30-minute run, 25-minute run or whatever. See a lot of people saying that, can you do a run where you don't break the whole thing down? And I always tell them, like, there will be glitches in this run, but I have almost a 3-hour run of all the missions in the game. Like, what more do you want from that? You know, like yeah, it's always hard to explain to people that don't like kudos if you thought that glitches was cheating in the beginning, then you did your research and changed your mind. Seriously,
that's exactly.
kudos.
I mean, no, 100%. That was me. That I started off, and this is the reason I understand it a bit more than I understand where people are coming from, and this is the reason why I think it's purely ignorance based, because I completely changed my mind on this. I was 100% in the other camp.
The only time I ever had this mindset was when I was learning Ouya for the first time in 2015. I refused to learn NG+, because I felt like any percent was more of a vanilla category. I felt like it was more legit and not as arbitrary. as I come to realize, NG Plus is literally the best fucking category in that game. So, you know, I fucking proved myself wrong.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in the other camp, and it was as I learned more and more about speedrunning and the like I say, the culture around it and everything else, it completely changed my view. I was like, this is how it's done, and you can't really do it any other way. I mean, without going back to the fucking ancient dinosaur Twin Galaxies era, which we know from current events had its problems.
Basically has troglodytes on the leaderboard at this point.
Yeah, there's so much drama about Twin Galaxies recently.
Twin Galaxies, like, you know.
If you don't know, they're like the old school record keeping, Guinness approved world record bookkeeping system, and they were huge in the early in the 90s and the early 2000s. But they are completely irrelevant today.
Yeah, it's being completely replaced by like speedrun.com and things like that.
And stuff.
Yeah.
But it just came out that two of their like top guys over the two of the famous ones that were associated with them. Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell
seem to be, well, pretty much are confirmed to be cheatsters. Fucking frauds.
yeah, using the plural there.
But that's I think that's a conversation for another podcast, because there's a fucking lot to talk about there.
Yeah, we can.
I kind of don't want to talk about this.
We can talk about those guys forever.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. There's so much of a conversation to have.
I
do want to touch on it. I do want to talk about it at some point, but not right now.
Yeah, not right now. We could go on about that, but you know, I think talking about Twin Galaxies is definitely not super relevant. More in talks about like transitioning into our speedrun as well, where I said a lot of these good videos are being put onto our speedrun as well, but also a lot of the bad. I don't actually feel like a lot of the bad videos are getting on our speedrun, but it's like both YouTube and our speedrun have their own way of portraying speedrunning in a good and a bad way.
Before you talk shit about our speedrun, right? We are going to be almost certainly promoting this podcast on our speedrun. So this is hi guys. We're going to talk shit about the subreddit you were just on for about 20 minutes. The interesting thing is, I know a lot of speedrunners feel very strongly about that subreddit. And I don't, actually. I've always been very neutral about it. I think that good things go on there.
I really think there's only one thing people complain about, honestly.
I really like to pick your brain about what, I mean, would you say you dislike that subreddit?
I really only dislike one thing, and it's a major flaw for sure, but honestly a lot of the other things they do are really great. For example, every single time there's an ESA or a GDQ or something like that, there's always a very dedicated user that seems to compile a lot of these marathon runs into
great.
something like that.
That's awesome.
And all the AMAs that all the runners do after most of these events do fairly well. I speak from experience. Holy shit, mine went super good after GDQ. And people seem to be quite nice in terms of the questions they were asking. The only thing that I and many other people have a huge problem with is the insane narrow-minded vision of, I only care if it's not a new Mario record or a new Zelda record or whatever is popular on Nintendo, or maybe your favorite streamer, not going to name any names, but if it's like someone, you know, super big, you know, if he posts his PB or something like that on our speedrun, that's going to get really big as well. And people don't really understand the subcult, not subcultures, but like the cult favorite games, the like we say, like the Ratchet stuff, like and then there's like also like what's it called? Like you get what I mean. Like the upvote system is a problem, is where I'm at basically.
Do you think that is a problem with our speedrun, or do you think it's a problem with just the speedrunning community as a whole? It's very centric on the popular games. Not a lot of stuff gets a lot of attention.
I feel like there are other runners.
Not a lot of stuff gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, I feel like there's actually a lot of runners that don't actually pay attention to things that that they didn't play. I don't know about you, but I'm reaching a point in my speedrun, I guess, career where when I watch other people's streams, I would rather be watching something I actually have never seen before than watching a game I'm familiar with. Maybe if it's a game I've never speedrun but I played as a kid, that's cool. But if it's a game I haven't played entirely or never even heard of, and the person's doing a good job explaining it and it looks exciting, I'm all down to sit down and watch that, honestly. And I feel like there's so many people that do not give that a chance.
It's interesting that you say that, because I am almost certainly one of those people who finds it very, very hard to get into new stuff just generally. I'm not even talking about speedrunning. I'm talking about like music. I find it very difficult to listen to new music. I find it very difficult to give new films or TV shows or whatever it is a chance, because I'm very like sort of, I know what I like and I like what I know, that sort of mindset. And I feel like a lot of people have that, and it's interesting to, speaking from experience, I don't really know how people could encourage more you to check out new stuff and stuff, because it's something I hate about myself. I've got to say this. I really hate that I have such a hard time picking up.
I'll explain to you
new things
why.
And giving new things a chance all the time.
The one thing I seem to struggle with is, maybe you don't have like an hour or two to try out a new TV show and things like that, but maybe you have 10 seconds out of your life to say, wow, this guy got a new record, or this guy got a new PB. I don't know this game. Good for him. Upvote. How long does that take? Maybe the description of the RONG isn't super long, but you can check it out and take 20 seconds. Like, just be happy for someone else that they improved. I feel like it's more of a again, I don't mean to sound mean about it, because I do think our speedrun does good things. It's just that I feel like people don't give chances to less relevant games, and people need that support. People need to see like upvotes on games that don't make it super big, because like if someone like Darbian gets like a new SMB 1 record, do you think he's going to check our speedrun and go, wow, I'm so happy to see all these upvotes and things like that? I think he's already plenty happy with what he's doing, because he's already getting so much exposure, and he's already or maybe he's just so humble he doesn't think of it that way. But the point being is, some people, they don't really have anywhere else to go. So when they don't see encouragement from the outside world as to anyone being interested in what they're doing, it makes it hard to continue as such. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's sort of like, maybe just encourage people, like, spread the love a little bit more, just fucking...
Yeah.
Just take some time out. Like, just give it like 30 seconds.
Even if you've just heard of the game or the name, just give it 20 seconds, maybe read the runner description on our speedrun, whatever the runner put, and like their YouTube video, or just be happy for them. Like, even
show a bit of like support, even if you're not even interested. Like, you could just be happy for that person that they've improved,
that they succeeded.
Yeah.
That also brings me to the people that also run like lesser popular games and things like that. They also probably have lesser popular streams, which means not only are they submitting to a site where people at the very moment aren't giving love to to lesser popular games, but the person is also not getting too many viewers. Even though he might be super into explaining how the game works, his stream isn't growing like whatsoever,
Yeah, I mean, on a certain level, you can't force people to care about something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a tough one, but yeah, it's like at the same time, you do want to see people trying new stuff. Encouraging people to just check stuff out and see what they think. Again, as someone that speaks from experience, as someone who finds it quite hard to do that, I'm not sure how to really go about it other than just saying, just consider it. Just you don't even have to do anything. Just consider checking out stuff that you haven't before, and like just forcing yourself, honestly. See, because you might end up really enjoying something that you've given a miss before, and plenty of times it's happened to me where I'm like, I don't know why I didn't try this sooner, because it's fucking awesome. People get like very annoyed when people like try and force stuff on them, even if it's something that they might like. People like get very combative about it. I know I have an example here with one of my old girlfriends. This isn't kind of off topic, but it's the same sort of principle where
Same deal, yeah.
everyone, all of her friends, and including me, because I fucking love this show, we're trying to get her to watch Game of Thrones, right? And because everyone was saying it to her all the time, they have this like gut reaction of like, no, I'm not going to do it because I don't want it. Like, stop trying to make me do this thing that I don't want to do.
Yeah,
even though she might have like loved it, you feel like it's been shoved down your throat, and your response to that, just like primally, is just fuck off. Like, I'm not gonna do this thing.
Yeah.
And I tried in vain for like, weeks to just get her to give it a chance, and she wouldn't. And I feel like there's definitely a way to do it where you're not shoving it down people's throats, I think, and that's something that you've got to think about as well.
Yeah, and there will be people that won't. Regardless of how much you, not regardless of how much you try, or even if you just say it like once, there's gonna be people that won't try. But like even if you just say it once, it might encourage one person. And the thing I don't really understand sometimes is these smaller streamers are actually so into talk, like they might be new to speedrunning, and they're gonna be so into talking about their game and explaining it to new people, and they will be able to have one-on-one conversations with you because their chat isn't super busy. Whereas a lot of the time with these people that have like 500 viewers and things like that, there's not really much chat interaction in terms of, it's really just what the streamer can catch in the corner of his eye. It's you end up drowning, and it's not going to be a personal thing. You're just basically a part of the chat or the crowd. Yeah, and all of a sudden you aren't being treated as an individual. You're being treated as a crowd.
Yeah, I mean it's funny you say that. Even at my level, sometimes even at my sort of size, and we're talking like 30 40 viewers. 40 viewers. Sometimes I can't even keep up at that level, to the point where I miss stuff, people feel like I'm ignoring them, people feel like alienated, and you sort of, it's really hard to balance that trying to just focus on what you're doing and keeping a good atmosphere with keeping up with everything that's going on in your chat and trying to make people feel included and stuff. It's difficult. And it's not something that you can just teach outright to people. I mean, you get better at dealing with that sort of thing as you keep streaming, and I'm certainly getting better with it now. But at the start, I mean, it was even hard for me to keep up with like 2-3 messages a minute in chat.
Yeah, I mean, you learn that. You learn the algorithms of streaming as well, and how to grow it and stuff like that the more you do it.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing I feel like people give up on too quickly as well, is like, oh, no one's watching my stream, why am I even doing this?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting out streaming, you really have to you have to appreciate that for a couple of weeks at least, you're going to be streaming to 0 to 1 people. Maybe 2, maybe 3, but most of the time, unless you've got like unless somebody's like carrying you, you're getting those big fat hosts or whatever, you're not going to be, very popular, and you've got to be doing it for the love of the game. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then there's no reason to start.
There's a very big portray of.
I started doing Ratchet because I wanted to improve my time, and I just thought, honestly, you can fall back on this idea of, and this is sort of what I feel like when I'm not getting any real viewers. I'm sort of like, I'm streaming at the moment because if I PB, it's just easier than anything else to have that video and upload it. Like, it doesn't matter that I have no viewers. This is the core reason I'm doing this, and then everything else is sort of like almost secondary to that. And that's the reason. That's what you should be thinking about starting out. It's like, this is a functional thing more than anything else, and then.
This is a way of recording my runs as well.
Yeah, and then you sort of grow your stream from there.
I might have shitty internet, and Twitch can export my run to YouTube, and it'll be super easy to do. And even if you don't want to export it to YouTube, you can just have it sitting there on Twitch highlighted, and you can submit it to the boards. It's a super easy way to just like become a part of the community and submitting to the boards.
Yeah,
but
and then the more you do it, more people give chances to see you, and you just grow that way.
I think people are also not super aware of how to actually get viewers as well. A lot of people seem to think that it's something that like you have to be someone very specific and things like that. And like while that might be the case sometimes, starting off with your exposure can be hard. I'm going to tell you right now, the reason I am big, I'm very self-aware of it, honestly, and it's because I did Jack 3 and I speedran it a lot. Pretty much every day after school when no one else did. And because there wasn't necessarily a high demand, but a decently strong demand, for Jack speedruns at the time. People were interested in Jack speedrunning. And with the influence of the SRL front page at the time, because SRL was booming in like 2013, the SRL front page, the fact that not really many people were playing Jack and Daxter, and I was streaming fairly consistently as well, and around the same time after school. And I used the mic, I used the webcam. It was just a very simple time back then. It's like these days, if you're at a decently top level in any speed game, like if you're at top 5 level, you use a mic and you talk to the people, you'll at least have a few people to talk to after a week of streaming. Like I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
People will also very much care if you're good at your game as well. Like there's obviously going from a medium size streamer to like, you know, getting those double digits, like 20 viewers, 30 viewers, 40, 50 viewers, is either being someone special, and you can't force that. Please, for the love of God, do not force that if you aren't. Realize who you are sometimes, and just like, I don't know. This is hard advice. This is insanely hard advice.
It's not the only way to improve your stream is by like trying to force a personality on yourself. There's really 2 main reasons people are popular on Twitch. It's because people want to see the game, or they want to see the person that's playing the game. There's a personality aspect and there's a skill aspect or whatever. And neither one of those things is particularly bad. I feel like the best streamers probably have a balance of both. You know, that they're not just full personality, or they're not just full their game or whatever, but you know, they're good at what they do and they're entertaining.
Yeah, you see most of the big League of Legends streamers, like for example as well, they have like, they're funny. Like most of the big league streamers, the reason they're big is because they're funny and they're good at the game, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the reason. Sometimes there's people that get it purely because of the game, but that's just how it's going to be. There will always be a demand for what people are coming to see.
Mm-hmm. There is an interesting conversation to have though. It's when you get to a certain level, if you want to keep improving, and this is maybe a hard conversation to have with you. Specifically, Ricky.
I know where this is going.
You know exactly what I'm going to be talking about, because this is a conversation.
We're talking about selling out. Oh,
this is a conversation I have with Ricky a lot. We talk about this. We talk about this all the fucking time. Because Ricky, if you don't know, is very, very stoic.
Yes, speak for me. Speak for me.
Very, yeah. I will. Wait, is that sarcastic? Okay.
Just
Ricky is very stoic. He's very, if you don't know what that word is, he's like very set in his ways. He very much doesn't like compromising what he wants his stream to be for other people. And that's fine, like, right? If he's happy at the sort of level his stream is, he doesn't want to keep growing, or he doesn't want to, he's happy with the level, he's happy at the levels he's at, and he likes the situation he's in, then that's fine. But if you do want to keep growing, you have to, at some point, start making sacrifices for your stream. And this is the sort of long-term aspect that we were talking about with speedrunning when we were talking about mentality. It's exactly the same thing. You sort of have to look at the big picture and say, it's not necessarily selling out, but it is doing things that you don't want to do for the good of your stream. Doing
things out of your comfort for your future as well, basically. Yeah.
And this is the reason I have.
There's obviously like there's a few things implied in this. It's not just doing things you don't want to do. It's a lot more complicated than that, honestly, because it can be something like actually playing a game you don't want to play. That's the first one. There's also embarrassing yourself, essentially, which there are people out there that you could be currently watching. Again, I sound like a complete dick saying this, but you know, I think it's okay that there should be someone out there saying this. There could be a person that you're currently watching who isn't the person you think he is. Basically, quote unquote, putting on an act for more exposure on the stream. That could also be going out of your comp.
So this is an interesting conversation, because you meet people in all types of entertainment media that have a persona that they put on to a crowd or an audience or whatever it is that they have, right? They're essentially doing this thing because That's how it's either because they know that gets them more attention or because that's what they feel comfortable doing. That's how they like addressing crowds. I know, for example, when I talk on, I have a radio show at my uni, and when I talk on that show, I am not a different person, but I definitely act in a different way. I definitely talk in a different way to what I would just talking to people, in real life or whatever. And I do that not because I think it gets me more attention, but because that is just a thing. It's like a front that you put up that makes it a lot easier to deal with. It makes you feel more comfortable talking about stuff. It makes you, it makes it easier for you.
Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't put it to me that I'm the exact same person on stream as right now on this podcast, for example. You're always going to have small variances. We're talking about changing the core of who you are as a person, basically, on stream, and going against your actual values on your stream, just to grow and things like that.
Okay, we can come on to values. I just want to touch on the idea that it's not necessarily a bad thing to.
Oh yeah. No.
It's not necessarily a bad thing to be a different person on stream to who you are in real life. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily.
No, not. Yeah, of course not.
Well, I just wanted to get that point in. I think compromising your values, depending on what your values are. Yeah, I mean, this is a thing in sort of all types of life. Whenever you want to improve on something, you have to compromise something about your values, or at least something about what you want to do. If you what you actually want to do, just day to day. If you want to improve yourself. What would you say is a value of yours related to your stream that you do not want to compromise on ever?
Like me?
Yeah.
I think I personally think let's just take something like top donator, for example. That is the absolute hardest. I think the last thing I would definitely do on my stream, because the way I see this is, again, please want to put this out there, that if you're doing this on your stream, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I'm a completely different person, and you have to respect different views and different values that some people want to go with. I just want to point out now that I think it's wrong for me, and it's wrong for who I am and what I value, because I think it's a competition about receiving money, when it should be about generosity, and it should be about people, not, especially if you're earning enough already, and you're well off on your stream, and you have enough subs, you have enough donations, bits, and all that sort of stuff, to the point where you don't even need more than what you already have, and therefore you're choosing to compete, essentially making people compete about giving you the most amount of money. I personally believe that is that's not something I would ever want to do. That's just how I see it.
Okay, so there is a discussion to be had here, right? I think that this is almost human nature. People, if you're in a job, let's say, that has promotion opportunities, right? You're never going to want to just stagnate. You're never going to want to sit there and not try and push for the next promotion. People are always looking to improve themselves, and that's the core of speedrunning as a whole. People always want to improve themselves, improve the times they're getting, and streaming, I think, is no different. People always want to be pushing. It's just human nature that people always want to be pushing for, pushing for growth, pushing for pushing for literally for donations. Pushing for you're incentivizing people to give you money to grow your stream, to improve your life.
Well,
and people, you never get.
So how I view it is you're saying, this person's giving me $50. Thank you so much for the $50. This person gives me $60. Haha, he gave you more money than him. Therefore, he's on the screen now that you aren't, basically. So this person has to give more money to be recognized by the community and to be on the stream. That's why I don't like it, basically. It's basically saying, haha, I have more than you, or I beat you by being richer than you, or by being more generous.
I really understand your issue with it. I do.
You understand me, right?
I do.
I really don't have too many other problems than that one.
To a large extent, I feel exactly the same way in that I feel very uncomfortable trying to incentivize people to give me money. But I don't think other people doing that is a bad thing. I think it's just my nature.
Yeah.
That
I just said that too about myself.
Yeah, I feel very awkward being like, hey guys, you know, I need money for this thing.
Hey,
you gotta pay for it. Like,
what's going on,
you know,
boys?
I talking about fucking, you know, oh, I need to do this thing. I'm so fucking broke. Can you guys spare a dime? You know, it's. I feel like if people want to, and people want to donate, and they do.
It's like
that's
this
fucking
mic you're
great,
just hearing
and it's
right
like
now.
holy shit, like. That's like so awesome. It still to this day blows my mind that anyone has ever given me money for playing a fucking video game.
Yeah, I still cannot believe that.
It's still you never get to a point where that doesn't blow your mind. Like I know big streamers. I've talked to bigger streamers about this, and you always get the same response. It's like no matter how much or how common or how frequent donations become or how big they become, it never really hits home. Like it never really stops hitting home how fucking nuts it is that people even want to do this in the first place.
Yeah,
so
that
like
people find you entertaining enough to actually want to pay for it.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, no, I think it's crazy. And again, like the thing about the mic you're hearing me speak through right now is actually, you know, from people on Twitch. Actually, generally, my old mic, I'm going to say semi-broke, but it's because I've been dealing with this mic, this old Blue Yeti for like 3 years. And it's been a pain in the ass to me for like basically a year and a half. And finally, when the micro USB cable broke, I took the excuse to get a new mic, but I literally didn't have any money. So I could have, like, in theory, just gotten a new micro USB cable, but this thing has been causing me so many fucking problems in the past. Regardless, I bit myself in the tongue and said, fuck it, I'm actually going to do donations, which I hadn't done in, like a year? And even the one time I asked for donations, you're still going to get shit from it from someone. Yeah, and you're still going to get shit from yourself.
Nuts. I mean,
it's a thing. It's just always going to be a thing. Even though it's a personal problem for you sometimes to push for money, it's gonna bite you in the ass.
A fucking example, literally for me recently, and I don't think I've told you this yet, Ricky, but I don't think I told you anything about this story actually. Is that I've recently been trying to get. I know I'm terrible. I recently have been trying to get hold of. I have got them now. NTSC copies of Rag 2 and Rag 3 because I want to run those games at some point.
You can tell me.
No. I mean, there's more to the story. I'm just starting it off. And I got hold of NTSC PS2 about a couple of weeks ago. It came, and like the fucking idiot I am that knows nothing about this sort of shit. It was an American PS2, comes with an American cable. I bought a wall plug converter, and I plugged it in, and I heard a little tick, and it fucking didn't power on. And I apparently needed, and I had no idea about this at the time, I needed a step-down converter to convert the voltages so that it wouldn't completely fucking destroy the PS2 I bought. Turns out the PS2 I bought is currently sat on my floor, plugged into this converter, not powering on, is now completely fucking broken. And I spent like $100 on this PS2 trying to get it shipped, imported, and then I had to pay a fucking fee to import it as well when it got here. So it was like $120 to $140 actually, just down the fucking drain, and it's all my fault. And I've been talking about this with a few people, and a guy, I guess I'll shout him out, fucking Pterodactyl, what's up, dude? Has literally just fucking sent me his NTSC PS2 from fucking Australia because he wants to see me running those games. And and that's so generous too. I can't fucking get over how he hears this story and then just thinks, do you know what? Fucking have mine. Like, that's crazy. That's his response. I could never thank someone enough for like just being that fucking generous. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the generosity of some people is hard. Again, like for me, it's so hard to. like I made a goal on this mic where I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna raise this amount so I can make good content like this podcast and like, you know, good YouTube videos with good voiceovers and I have good stream quality and things like that. And like I just set myself a goal. I fucking doubled the donation total I wanted to get because I barely, like, people told me that just because I barely asked for it, they threw it at me like no tomorrow, and it was just so insane. And I got fucking world record on the same day too, which is just like overwhelming. Like, just it was a great day for me.
Back
personally.
to mentality, right? You're really happy about that sort of stuff, and you just go, boom, I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna get that welly rally.
Yeah. But really, like the question lies in like how much of that sort of stuff are you willing to be okay? Thank you guys, but how much stuff is it that you want to flash on your screen, basically on your stream? Like how much of a value does the donations and does the subs have on your stream? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are you okay with putting that on your stream, or are you not okay with it? Therefore, you got to be able to find a nice balance, you know, and just ask yourself, what kind of person am I? What kind of thing do I want to do with my stream, you know?
And it's really hard to find really that balance between,
because it's gonna change, and like as you get older, and it's gonna change day by day sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
I was gonna say
there's gonna be some days where you don't even feel like using a mic, you know.
It's just hard to find that balance between what you want your stream to be and the level you want to get to with your stream in terms of growth and stuff. And it's something I think I'm still struggling with, and it's something that I think you definitely struggle with, Ricky.
No, that's nothing to hide. I've been doing this thing for 6 years. I have a problem with it. Definitely. It's always going to be a problem. It's just inevitable. Dude, we just took the little like looked up into the ceiling. We're like, yeah, it's an inevitable problem.
It's just a plague. It really is. I think,
I'll tell you one thing that definitely has helped me with the whole growth thing and to not pay too much attention to it. For like almost a whole year, a little under a year, I've been hiding my viewer count. You guys should try it. It's really fucking useful. You've stop paying attention to your viewer count. Man, is it useful, and man, do I really love doing that. It's helped me so, like, a tremendous amount. I literally hide everything on my dashboard except for the uptime, so I know how long I've been streaming for. Don't care about the total views. Don't care about how many clips there's been made. Who fucking cares about that anyway? Well, I guess there's the clip champ now, so I guess that does matter.
Clip champ,
and then there's the sub count, sub points, and then like the viewer count. Low key, if you're trying to grow and you're going, fuck, man, I'm getting low viewers. People don't seem to be interested. Like, okay, so I have a good analogy for this. I don't want to go too in depth about it, but the way I say it is, let's say you're doing a speech and you have a curtain in front of you. Let's say the curtain is open and you see 10 people that you're doing the speech to. You're not going to go as ham on the speech when it's 10 people, but when it's 10,000 people, you're going to go crazy. Like, you're going to make the speech as empowering and powerful as possible. If you put a curtain in front of it, you don't know if it's 10 people or 10,000. You're going to do it anyway. And that's what I think I do when it comes to streaming. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to be exactly who I am. I'm going to be as empowering about my stories, and I'm going to be, you know, as empowering about my gameplay, or I'm going to be as chill as possible. My viewer count is not going to affect how I stream, basically.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
It's interesting because I don't hide my viewer count. I know almost... I would say I check it. I'd say I check my viewer count once or twice every couple minutes. And yeah, literally, right? It's quite a lot. I just look in at chat, look at my viewer count, look at my chat, look at my viewer count. I look at my drop frames and uptime. I don't really look at anything else. I don't look at clips or subs or anything like that. Because streaming is obviously not a job for me. I'm much too small. I don't do streaming as a way to make money. I don't do that. So I don't really care about the money so much. But I do care about how the size of the stream. I do care about that. So I pay attention to the viewer count. I like to do things that people want to watch. It's about viewer experience for me.
You like entertaining people, basically.
I want to want to be able to retain people when they're watching. I want to make people like watching me. I want to be a likable individual.
Yeah.
So
that's the same for me.
I do pay attention to the view count, and it does give me an idea.
Honestly, I measure it in chat activity for the most part for me, because like as long as I have people to talk to, I genuinely enjoy it. Personally, one of the bigger things I stream for these days, anyways, is I like it when people acknowledge that I put a lot of work into what I do on my stream, and I put a lot of time into not only playing the game, but to produce content, and like, you know, they can see that my movement's getting better and things like that. Just people being able to see and track my progress as well as I am myself. And it just makes me feel good when people compliment me on that, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding. I've had the same experience before where people do follow your progress and they're like, wow, you're really getting so much better at this or whatever. And it's nice to have, again, that positive feedback of just from people. And it really encourages you to just keep going and want to do better.
Yeah. If you're just starting out though, try and I don't know. It's starting out with streaming is you need to do quite a bit of research if you know nothing about it. Like you need to know how OBS works, how capture cards works, how like video signals work, what kind of capture card you need depending on if you're playing like PC. Like if you're playing PC, you don't even need one at all. If you're playing an analog game, a digital game, you know, HD or SD, a really old game, or you're playing an emulator, you know, there's all these sorts of things you need to figure out.
And it might sound daunting, but there are loads of good resources out there that you can look up that will help you with pretty much anything you need.
Yeah, it's the same as you're picking up like an instrument as well. Like you're gonna have to figure out some of these things.
The best thing you can do if you're looking to start streaming, especially speedrunning, is join the community for the game that you want to run.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest task. There's going to be so many people helping you step by step on how to do things.
If it's a smaller community or there isn't one, then you've got a bit of a bigger challenge. But as long as you know some stuff, you can sort of work your way out and work out what you need to do, and create the for lack of a better word, market for your game. You can. I mean, oh god, there's this guy. What's his name? I think his name's like Flash Theory. Have you heard of this guy?
No, I haven't.
So there's this guy. It brings us back to our speedrun, and he ran like the Flash game for like Game Boy Advance or whatever it's on. And I don't think anyone really cares about that game, but he put so much work into that game, and he's like constantly talking about it on our speedrun and stuff, to the point where, if I'm honest, it's a little annoying. But the thing I can appreciate about that is that he knuckled down and he knuckled down and he put the fucking time in to work out that shit for the stuff he wanted to do, and as a result, he's seen growth.
Yeah, so he's being very persistent, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I actually think we got like a good amount of things that we talked about.
Yeah, we've been going for like almost 2 hours now, so that's interesting.
Yeah,
we actually ended up going for a lot longer than I thought, which is really good.
Yeah, no, we're actually not going in as long as we have, because remember the start?
No, I'm saying that's why I said almost 2 hours, right?
Yeah,
it has been 2 hours. It's been over 2 hours since I started this recording, but it's probably about, I don't know, probably like 1:40 right now. I don't know.
Yeah. But honestly, this was fucking fun. I'm super down to do this again. Shouts to anyone listening. If you went through the whole video with just sitting here and you just listened to us basically ramble about bullshit,
talking shit. If you really object to anything that we thought, if you want to start a conversation about anything that we've been talking about, if you want to just tell us how fucking great we are and how much you enjoy this content. Just drop us some comments or something. Just if you have any notes about the podcast, we'd love to hear it. Love to hear about anything that you might.
Feedback would be great.
Stuff you might want us to talk about in future episodes. Anything really, any feedback would be fucking great. This is the first time either of us have done anything like this. We're really excited.
I've been on a podcast before, but I've never been like one of the main hosts before. You know, I've been more or less a guest on the ones.
So we're sort of feeling this out at the moment. We don't really know where we're going with it, but we know we're going somewhere good. So that's always a nice place to be.
So yeah, thanks guys. You can go ahead and follow Tab at twitch.tv/1tabloid. It's also the same on Twitter, right? 1tabloid as well.
I think it's 1 tabloid or something on Twitter. No, it's one. My Twitter handle is 1_tabloid. That's what it is.
I'm gonna link that in the description. You can follow me at twitch.tv/therixer. Twitter is also the Rixer. And you're already watching this on YouTube, so feel free to subscribe. You can also
we're gonna put it on SoundCloud as well.
Oh yeah, we're gonna
have many media for you to enjoy this. I think we're gonna think about some other stuff as well, but whatever.
Read the description.
I tell you what, if you want this to be on a platform that is accessible to you, let us know and we'll fucking do it. I don't care at this point. We will sort it out. But at the moment, it'll probably just be like YouTube, SoundCloud, and maybe something else if I think about that.
Yeah. All right, that's it. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.